I'm going to show you how to use Supabase Queues to batch process large amounts of data. So why might you want to do this? We'll take this birdhouse, for example. If we had a whole bunch of birds trying to squeeze through this tiny hole, eventually the birdhouse would break and none of them would have shelter or food. But if they formed an orderly queue, and one bird went into the hole, got some food, and then came out, and then the next bird went in, got some food, and came out, and so on and so on, each bird would be appropriately nourished.
A meal fit for a king.
And kept safe. And isn't that really what we want for the data in our database as well? A more concrete example of this would be a real-time app that listens for new subscribers to the Supabase YouTube channel. Every time we get a new subscriber, the UI needs to update. So as you can imagine, with the huge amount of people clicking subscribe while watching this video, people just like you should totally hit that subscribe button, but with so many people subscribing all at the same time, our app just wouldn't be able to keep up with all of those updates. But if we add a queue to add all of those new subscriber events, then we have decoupled these systems that make up our application. And then maybe we could schedule a cron job that runs every 30 seconds and takes, say, 100 subscriptions from the queue, does all the processing, and performs one big bulk insert into the database. So our database only has one bulk action to complete, and our app only receives one update for all 100 new subscribers. And setting up queues in the Supabase dashboard is dead simple. Just head over to integrations and look through the list of official supported integrations until you come to queues. And this one uses the PGMQ extension, which we can enable here. And yes, we want to enable that extension. And we can see this is a Postgres extension, which is a lightweight message queue like AWS SQS or RSMQ, but within Postgres itself. So we can have a look at our queues and add a new queue for our subscribers. We're going to make this a basic queue. There are other types of queues based on your use case. We're going to enable row level security to make sure only the people we want to have access to this queue will have access. So let's create that queue, and we can see we don't have any messages yet, but we'll wire that up in a second. If we head over to settings, we want to expose this queue via Postgres, which automatically creates these Postgres functions for us, which we're going to use to interact with our queue from the Supabase JS client running in our Edge functions. So let's start by saving these changes to create those functions. And I've actually already set up these Edge functions as well. So we have one to add a subscriber. And so we can copy this URL and run it directly to see what it does. And we don't get much information here. But if we go back to the Supabase dashboard and look at our queue under integrations and then queues and then the queues tab, and our subscribers queue, we can see this has added a new message with the ID of our new subscriber. So then our second Edge function, called process subscribers, takes up to 100 subscribers off this queue, does some processing, and then writes those new subscribers to our subscribers table in our database. So if we go over to the table editor, we can see this subscribers table, which is currently empty. But if we were to run our Edge function to process our subscribers, and again, we can just send a GET request for this one, we see an array of each of our subscribers that we've now written to our Postgres database. So back over in the Supabase dashboard, if we go to the table editor and look at our subscribers, we now have that new subscriber written to our database. And if we go back to our queue, we can see that new subscriber message has been removed from the queue because we've now processed it and written it to the database. We also have a third Edge function, which looks at if that Edge function attempts to process those new subscriber events and fails, does that message just disappear, or does it get re-added to the queue so a future Edge function can process it and write it to the database? Well, let's have a look. So again, let's run our Edge function to add a subscriber. We can refresh this a couple of times just to add a few more subscribers to our queue. And now if we run this process subscribers fail Edge function, so this one pulls those new subscribers off the queue, but then just fails to do anything else. So it doesn't write it to the subscribers table and doesn't update the queue to say, hey, I've successfully processed these new subscribers. So if we run this function, we see all of these messages that it has pulled off that queue. But now if we go back to the Supabase dashboard and have a look at our queue for our subscribers, we'll see these messages are still here. The status is just not currently available. So when you pull a message off the queue, it goes into like an inactive status and then waits to be told, has this message been successfully processed? Should we archive it or delete it from the queue? And if it doesn't hear anything back, like the function fails to actually process those new subscribers and just shuts down, the queue will automatically set those messages back to available after a specific timeout, which we can set when we pull those messages off the queue. So hopefully I've been talking long enough now that if we refresh our queue, we'll see our new subscribers are available again, which means the next time we run our Edge function that can successfully process our subscribers, we see each of those has been written to our subscribers table. And if we go back to our queue for our subscribers, we'll see those messages have been successfully removed from the queue. So let's set up a cron job to automatically call these Edge functions on different schedules. So we'll have one that automatically runs every 10 seconds to add a new subscriber to the queue, and then a separate cron job to process our subscribers every 60 seconds. So we can set up cron jobs again from the Supabase dashboard as an integration. So if we look through the list for cron, which again is an officially supported integration, we need to enable the PG_cron extension, and then this gives us this new jobs tab where we can create a new job. This one is going to be called add new subscriber. We're going to use natural language to say run this every 10 seconds. We can then choose to run an SQL snippet or a database function, or if we enable the PGNet extension, then we can run a Supabase Edge function. So let's do that here, and now choose Supabase Edge function. We can choose to send a get or a post. The function we want to call is add subscriber. We can leave our headers and body empty and create our cron job. We then want to create a second job to process new subscribers. We want this one to happen every minute, and again, run a Supabase Edge function. We want to send a GET request to the process subscribers Edge function, leaving headers and body empty, and creating our cron job. Now, if we have our queue on one side and our subscribers table on the other, we can keep refreshing our queue to see these messages come in every 10 seconds. And when they disappear from the queue, we can see them automatically appear in the subscribers table because we now have this automated living system where anything can add new subscribers to our queue, and every 60 seconds, we're going to process 100 events from that queue and insert them into our database. And this works fantastically when you have a large task that you want to chop up into smaller chunks that can run independently. Another useful use case would be a web scraper for an e-commerce platform like eBay or something, where you want to grab all of the listings for a particular keyword. But it would be a huge amount of work to go and grab the details for each of those listings every time you scrape those search results. Instead, you could use a queue and insert each of the results from that keyword search, and then as a separate task, go and fetch the listing details for each item in the queue. Another example is like a massive file that you need to process. You could break this up into smaller chunks and do each of those little bits of processing in parallel. But I think our subscribers example is pretty damn cool. I forgot to show you the actual app, as in the one that displays the actual number of subscribers from the Supabase YouTube channel. Oh, that's no good. Looks like the number's too big. Oh no, I don't know what's gonna happen. Ah!